Hi, and welcome to another episode of Ordinary Working Joe. Today, we're going to be talking to Neil Lloyd, who owns and operates Zokit Business Hubs. I met Neil a little while back in one of those business events, and I thought he would be an interesting guest to have on. Hi, Neil. How are you?
Great. Thank you very much, Rob, and thank you for inviting me onto the podcast.
No problem at all. Absolutely welcome. So, question number one, firing straight into it. Tell us about you and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start off with the company. So I run Zokit Business Hubs, and we're a network for business owners and people in business. And our purpose really is to help connect businesses with each other, and for business owners to kind of reach their goals a bit faster, find connections, opportunities that they may not otherwise hear about, and be a bit of a kind of sounding board for businesses as well. Because a lot of business owners, when they come into business, they're really excited about their idea, what they want to do. And sometimes they realize actually as they start to build their business, there are challenges that come up, there are curveballs, things aren't as straightforward as perhaps when, they first thought when they set up. And by having a network of other people in business, it's surprising how many people have gone through a similar thing, can offer some advice or a sounding board and help people to sort of navigate that kind of quite torturous journey that it can be of business ownership.
Yeah, so they use it as more of a support sort of hub as well, then, do they? Yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. So we do a lot of networking events, and some of those are very much about meeting, introducing people to people that could be useful for them. And we also do kind of like board level events where, and some of those are online, some of those are in person, where people can bring, an issue around their business to the table, and there's other peers in the same boat as them, that can sort of help sort of problem solve.
Is that becoming more of a thing now, a sort of a two-tier business hub?
I think so, absolutely. I think it's interesting, the word networking, isn't it? Because I think, I suppose the old sort of 80s, 1980s kind of version is you can imagine people having a cocktail, or a glass of champagne. Here's my business card, call me, kind of thing. And I think over the years it's changed, and I think the meaning of the word networking has changed. And I think now it kind of sometimes means those other things. It means that those kind of building that community, building that support structure, as well as those kind of events where you're just having fun, or you're just kind of, making connections and swapping business cards. It's the whole thing now. So there's definitely been a trend, I think, towards that kind of more expansive view of what networking is. And that's something that we really wanted to, when we started Zokit just like 14 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, we had that in mind. We kind of felt there was this shift, and people wanted something a bit deeper, a bit more valuable. And that's why we set it up as we have. And even in those 14 years, we found it's changed and evolved even more.
When you say we set it up?
Yeah, well, I say we. It was me.
It's a royal we. It's a
royal we. But when I started it up, I had an idea about what I thought it could be, and I didn't want to just be one of those people that just kind of goes forward and just thinks, okay, I'm just going to stick to it and not listen to what's going on around me. And so there was an element where I kind of spoke to a lot of people in the early days and just said, okay, well, what do you want? What would be useful to you? Running a business, what would be a useful service to you? What would be a useful community for you? And people were very generous with their time and their ideas. So I kind of guess it was a we in terms of the DNA of how we designed it was those early founding members kind of crowdsourcing.
You came together as a collective.
As a collective, yeah. And I think we've kept that. I never want to be that business that just drives forward without listening to our customers. We are very much our members kind of co-create, and we shift and we change it.
And you've separated into areas or not?
Yes, we did, and there's been a big impact of as you can imagine with the pandemic, which is only 5-6 years ago now.
5 years,
So we had a lot of things that are very geographical. We had a lot of hyperlocalism. So we'd have very specific groups and specific areas across South Wales, London, Bristol. And then when, we wanted to go online, we had to pivot in 2020. Back then we had 4 or 5 exhibitions planned across the M4 corridor. We had conferences, all that just went overnight.
Yeah.
You can imagine how busy, well, for a lot of people, how busy that was. And then we had to pivot onto more online. And then different things came out of it because people think, well, actually, I can do business with someone that's 100 miles away or 500 miles away.
Yeah.
And then there was a bit of a shift again, as we came out of that into sort of more hybrid working. And now we're seeing, again, another evolution, again, I think, where people are looking for in-person events, but they are more willing to work with people that are further afield.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting that, going forward now into 2026, our program is looking very different to where it was last year because, again, things keep moving and people want different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so a bit about your professional history then. How did you get to that point?
I kind of fell into it, I must say. Yeah. So my background was in healthcare. And so I was delivering healthcare services nationally and regionally in the UK. And I kind of fell into IT through that. I fell into creating networks within the healthcare sector.
Oh, yeah.
And then ultimately, I kind of went into doing sort of freelance consultancy work. That was when I got my first taste of business. And I worked with a business, and it was sort of like a medical devices agency, I suppose. It was a failing business. People had left. It was making a loss. So I took that on as a business manager, and then with 18 months, we sort of were turning over $1 million in the year. And I thought, I really like this sort of work. I like business. I didn't know that. I mean, I'm the first person in my family that's in business.
All right, okay.
All my family, kind of, local government workers, that kind of thing. So, yeah. So I didn't know anything about business. It's just something I fell into. I thought, I like this, and then I built it from there. And then at some point, I was thinking, I want another challenge. What do I want? And I kind of sat down and thought, what do I want to do? What's my legacy? What do I want to go? What do I really want to? What do I enjoy? And what do I want to bring to the world? And that's when I looked at all the things I'd done, where I felt my skill set was, what I felt the world needed, what you could actually, would make a viable business.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the whole Ikigai. I'm not sure if you've ever done that kind of process where you look at all those things and you find out what's that kind of central point in all those circles that bring those things together. What's the overlap? And that's where I came up with Zokit Business Hubs, and I haven't looked back since.
Excellent. So, when did you decide it was time to leave what you were doing? Was it entirely then by accident?
Well, I guess I think after I had the first taste of business, and I realized rather than being employed, I felt I was more energized with creating something of my own.
Yeah.
And I think there's a place for both. I think there's lots of opportunity in employed work too. But for me personally, with the interest I had, and I had lots of different things I wanted to do, there wasn't really a job that kind of covered all that in a way.
I was the same. I was unemployable too, Neil.
Yeah. And I'm now unemployable because I just, I was starting to become unemployable in a job. I was starting to question too much. I thought, this is not really for me. So how I did it then, and I think a lot of people are in a similar situation, how do you make that leap? And I suppose I went more part-time. I started building the business in the evening. I started doing
a slower transition.
I started dropping down to 3 days, 2 days. And then when I felt confident enough to make the leap, I then just left it all behind. And that was quite a scary thing to do.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Because you think, where's I've got mortgage to pay.
How am I going to pay the mortgage?
To pay,
Everyone's first worry.
So, but I had that unshakable belief that I knew I was going to make it happen. I thought I can always go back to a job if I needed to. But I'm going to make this happen. And, come hell or high water, it's going to work. And so I'm glad I did that. But also I'm glad I did it in a phased approach. I wasn't lucky enough that I had lots and lots of resources available to me. Mm-hmm. I had to do it that way. And I think, I suppose you use what you have, don't you?
Of course you have, yeah.
And you go with what's right for you. And that's what I did,
Yeah, that's what you do, isn't it? So thinking about that then, what are the big lessons that you've learned along the way?
Lessons, oh gosh. I think I wouldn't look back. It's the absolute right choice for me, but I would say there are challenges to running a business, which is very different to anything else. And I think people sometimes can underestimate that. That's probably a good thing, because I think if you know all the challenges in advance, you probably would never make it.
You'd never do it.
You'd never do it. So I think the lesson is to trust in the process, to allow, not to beat yourself up when things go wrong, because things will go wrong. And I suppose just to lead on your network and to take advice, but also go with your gut. I think that's an important element to it, because there's no one rule book or guidebook for a business, because every business takes a different shape, and it depends really what you want. So I think certainly there's an element, I think, of beginning with the end in mind. So you're knowing where you want to go, so you can track back and think, okay, well, how am I going to get there? But also thinking about, well, actually, sometimes things change, and the plan might, you might want to, your business plan that you maybe write out may actually be completely rubbish after a year. And sometimes you just think, okay, well, I need to be a bit flexible. I need to think, well, actually, things have changed, the world has changed, what I want changes, and that's fine too. So I think it's just being, I suppose, noticing what's happening, and analyzing what's happening, knowing your figures. That's a real good, important thing. I think knowing your figures, and then what the story of those figures, what that's telling you, and then how do you need to adapt and change and pivot to make sure that you're kind of on track to where you want to be. And I think kind of thinking also about, in a way, what you want your business to do for you. Because, you can work, especially when 15 years ago, I was 15 years younger. As you start getting older, you start thinking, well, actually, my needs change. I wanted
priorities change.
Change. And you don't want to be working late all the time. You can't, what you can do in the startup phase, which is often many people working many hours a week, that's not sustainable. So it's about kind of making sure you're bringing those processes in place, building the team, or however you want to run your business. So I think, there's a lot to it, but that's what's so exciting about running a business, because it's not boring.
Is that learning to be flexible? So having that sort of time and impetus to self-reflect, check the business plan once a year, go back to it, reflect upon it, and then make the changes. If you need then to pivot into a different direction, I suppose that's a valuable asset, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. You might want to pivot in, or you might your life goals might change. People might think, well, actually, I don't want to build an empire. I want to build a lifestyle business instead. Because I want to just be able to travel lots, or I want to be able to, buy that second home, or do this, or spend more time with the family. So I think there's an element of, understanding what you want, but also being open to opportunities that you may never thought of, because sometimes something comes on your lap, or you see something, you think, well, actually, that's a really good kind of, direction that we could go forward in our business, and that would open up this opportunity for us. So I think it's good just to sort of check in with yourself that you're happy with where it's going, and make those changes.
Of course. It was beer money for me. That's why I did it.
Well, that's a good motivating factor.
And obviously the thing about the cars, because it's an expensive hobby to have.
Well, that's it. But do you not find that sometimes when you've got an expensive hobby, or you've got cost, you kind of almost helps you build your business. It motivates you, doesn't it?
Of course it does, It's another level of motivation,
Another level of motivation. For me, it's travel. I love my travel. So I know that costs money. So I know that I need to work hard in order to do that. So it kind of...
I like being away. I don't like going. It's the traveling element that puts me off.
Ah, right. You don't like the going... Okay. You just want to teleport. When teleportation becomes possible. I'm sure that will happen at some point. I'm hoping.
We're of a similar age. You remember Rent-A-Ghost. Remember Mr. Claypool?
Mr. Claypool.
And he could just transport himself anywhere he wanted. That's what I want. I want that ability.
It's just the unrealistic expectations of that, isn't it? Because I kind of remember growing up thinking I wanted that magic wand that he had, and the jester wand, wherever it was, and be able to do that. And I was quite disappointed when life wasn't like that.
No, I know. It's horrible. There's a cultural reference Beth won't understand, I can tell you. She won't have a clue.
Google Rent-A-Ghost. It's fabulous. They don't make programs like that again, do they now?
Thankfully, some might say.
True.
Moving on, if you had to give yourself your younger self some advice about work and business and everything else, what would it be?
I would say, go for it. Have faith in yourself, and don't take rubbish from other people. Because I think that's the other thing sometimes when you're younger, is that, especially I think when you're either starting out in business or even in any career and you're young, and, I think sometimes you can take a lot of rubbish on, deal with people's crap, if you like. And I think sometimes I wish I'd done that less.
Now, when you were starting out then and you were telling your existing support network, which I'm going to assume, like me, was friends. You'd grown up with and gotten to know over the years. You told them your business idea.
Yeah.
And did anyone go, I don't get it?
Yeah, quite a few. I think I was quite lucky. I think most of my friends were very supportive and family members. Some are probably thinking, "Oh, it's Neil doing some weird again." Because I've always had weird jobs. A bit like, ever used to watch Friends, the sitcom, the American sitcom.
I never watched it, but I know what you mean.
So there's a character there, Chandler, and no one ever knew what Chandler did. It was a bit of a running joke. You had this weird. And my career's always been like that. No one's really understood what he's done.
Right. Okay.
So I think when I say on Facebook, what he's doing again? What is that? I don't understand what he does. But they were supportive, and I think you do get a bit of pushback. I think from some people because, who is he to go up and set up a business?
And I think that's fairly unique to the UK.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's something in the UK because I think, especially when you've got an idea, and it can be quite in the early days, it can be quite delicate. It's like a sort of crystal, a gem that you've got to hold it up and nurture it. And I think sometimes the culture in the UK can be very much like they'll crush that. You don't give it enough space to grow. And I think sometimes you need that. You need that little bit of space. That idea to develop and to become something. And I think, we're probably getting it better. I think there's some great incubators around, some support, but I think there are some cultural elements around how we do things. And I think maybe it's tied into our education system and the way we kind of do that to a degree, which I'm not a massive fan of. I think I believe that we could do more to help people to nurture that idea and know that, okay, it might take 6 months or a year or before it takes off, and that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think there's a lot more support that could be offered to what we will loosely call entrepreneurs. Yes. Because I think it's not a very good term.
So there's
It's just one of those things, isn't it, where it's been sort of co-opted by American culture, entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And now it seems almost negative. But it's just, that's what we're known as, I suppose, as businessmen, because I don't like that term either.
Yeah. Well, I think any label, this is the issue, isn't it? It's changed. I mean, look at entrepreneur. I mean, originally, it's like a sort of, to describe in France, a man with a van, wasn't it? It was that, and then of course it's moved on, and now it's kind of like multi-billionaires in America. And so you kind of, it's interesting how the meanings of words change, but
it's how we perceive them. Yeah, the perception of the word. Yeah. And like I say, I've never been a fan of the word businessman because it reminds me sort of 70s, 80s.
A bowler hat or something.
Exactly. And the man going to the business club, and you've got to wear a shirt and tie and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of sort of, for me, negative connotations in that. And I think the word entrepreneur has been almost hijacked now by this sort of alternate culture. So I don't like the term is all. And it's just, me being me. I'm a bit odd.
Odd's the best place to be.
But it doesn't do me any harm, really, being like I am. It's just, I don't know, there are terms that I don't like. But so you've got to be able to support these people who have these, like I say, entrepreneurial ideas could they leave college or school or whatever, at whatever age they sort of know that you can leave these things.
Yeah.
Whether you decide to go down that formal education route or not.
Yeah.
Because you could have an idea at 16.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And how you articulate that idea to someone then in a support role, it might be brilliant.
Yeah.
It might be rubbish, and you can be let down gently at that age, can't it?
Yeah.
But if someone thinks it's got legs, that's when I think you could then potentially enter some kind of support structure, sort of funded by, let's say, local government.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be bringing employment and money to the area anyway, aren't you?
Well, absolutely. And of course, what happens now is, people have often said, "Oh, well, go to university first,"
yes,
and of course, quite often then the ideas change. It's the moment's been lost. So I think there is something we haven't got those structures in place that to help those people that have those ideas at that age, to nurture them, kind of help them through that, rather than saying, well, actually go and do something different for 3 years and then see how you feel. And a degree might be the right choice for someone, but it might actually be might actually kind of stop someone from actually doing something that that's really the best thing for them.
Yeah, it's a more natural fit for them.
Yeah. So I think there are some institutions that kind of do that a little bit, but it's not always easy to access those, and it depends often where you live and what resources you have. So I do think that there's something we could do more around that, and also people who've gone further down and think, well, actually, I've invested 10 years of my life into this particular sector and I've got a degree or a postgraduate degree in it, and I don't want to let go and do something else now. Well, actually, that might be the best thing for them to do. We can always change. Even people, I speak to people now in their 50s and 60s that have actually started a business. And I think that's absolutely fine and a great thing to do.
I don't think there's any negative connotations to it. They bring a lot of experience.
Absolutely.
Especially if they're going to carry on working in their own field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. And they can bring all that in and do something different, and also kind of like disrupt their industry a bit, because, I think that disruption is really important.
Especially if they've spent 30 or 40 years thinking, if we did it this way, it would be better.
Yes.
But not given the opportunity, because that is stifled in some corporations.
Well, that's that whole thing is one of those dangerous things, isn't it? That, we've always done it this way, so we'll carry on. Well,
exactly.
Maybe that's the problem. So I think you need that someone to come and just say, well, actually, there is a better way.
Yeah.
And just look at some of the things we do now. I mean, the world's changed so much, hasn't it, compared to 10 years ago?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I was down in Spain last week, and I just on my phone get an Uber, go somewhere. That just wasn't available.
No, of course not. No.
And now you can be almost anywhere in the world, and you can kind of access these services, different ways of doing it. I stayed in an Airbnb that I just booked last minute. It's kind of, it's just a different world, and all those were things that had disrupted their industry.
Absolutely.
And I think there's some sort of power in that, isn't it, to keep disrupting. And even in a small way, I think you can, recently you had the Innovation Awards that we had. It was congratulations, by the way.
More through luck than judgment, I think. But
innovation could be kind of like small, incremental, and it can be big, and it can be both at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think wherever business you're in, I think bringing that innovation in is a really critical part to your survival.
There's a couple of those technology companies where I just think they've thought entirely about disruption. Uber, the largest transport company in the world that don't own any vehicles. Airbnb.
They don't own any property.
No properties whatsoever. Yeah. And they're the largest sort of accommodation company in the world now. And you've got companies now like that.
Yeah.
What do they call it? SaaS?
Software as a service.
Software as a service, yeah.
Well, this is it. And I think that, there's so much opportunity to see where a problem could be and what innovative solution could solve it. And they say it doesn't necessarily have to be an app. It could just be a different way of doing something.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, God bless the disruptors, that's what I say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Without
that, have that on your thing.
I'll write it on that wall over there.
Wrap,
yeah. Right, moving on. What do you see as the big challenges to business in the next coming years?
To business in general, I would say, I think things are moving fast. Expectations are moving fast. People want a different way of living. I think there's lots of different forces at play. And we've seen this in the world and geopolitically as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, that's been a bit of a ride already. We're only in January 20.
We are an apolitical podcast. So.
But we're not going to go into the politics. But of course, there's an element to how things, the world that we work in. And I think the big thing, of course, being AI, artificial intelligence, or A1, as my mum likes to call it.
Yeah.
What's this A1? I have to explain, it's not one.
I've got a friend like that.
A friend of mine is called Al, and he keeps, and every time someone emails him, you get a problem with AI. But AI, that's going to just go, more and more and more, we're just scratching the surface at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think businesses that don't kind of embrace it or are aware of it at least are going to potentially fall behind, because I think you really need to understand how AI is going to impact our business, and also how we can actually leverage it in our business.
Yeah.
Right down from just things like the way we work, our efficiencies, the things that we're doing in our business, which a lot of, AI will be taking a lot of that on, but also how AI can actually create other business opportunities that we're not even perhaps aware of yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one to watch. I think is that. I think there'll be some other stuff coming on. I think in terms of like virtual reality. I think that we've seen that coming up over the past years. It's still, it's kind of petered out a little bit, partly because of the hardware. But I think there's, we're seeing gains in that. So again, that's another thing that I think a lot of businesses can tap into. But I think also just the workforce. I think people want to work in a different way. People are realizing that they don't want to just work hard and then retire and then, peter out where it is. People want to design their life how they want to design it.
Yeah.
And I think employers that can't meet people halfway. We've seen this obviously with things like COVID, we work from home and all this. But I think it's more than that. I think there's a deeper element of thinking about, what do we want to do? What as a society, how do we want to live? How do we want to be? And business should be serving that really, rather than the other way around. So I think the clever businesses will understand that and work.
Offer that flexibility.
With that flexibility, yeah. And understanding what people's drives are and what they want from their lives, and and accessing that, and having their team that can kind of, I suppose, live the life they want to live in the way they want to live, but also add value into that business.
Yeah.
And tap into that talent. That's a lot of
because that's the key, isn't it? I think it's fine that people sort of can and do work from home. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But they still have to add value and be productive.
Yeah, it's about the outcome, isn't it? Rather than managing the time, it's managing the outcomes.
Yeah.
Is that person actually adding value, the right amount of value in the right way, or aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily the person that comes in and gets, strapped to a desk between 7 and...
And there'll always be individuals that sort of, they want to push the boundaries and that kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, there is that. There's people that test.
And managing those is way more of a challenge.
Absolutely, there is that. I think managing and leadership in this next decade is going to be very different.
Yeah.
You always got to be careful. There'll always be people that will try and take advantage, and I think it's harnessing people. Perhaps harnessing is the wrong word. Actually, it's enabling people and creating something that works for your business, but also allows them to bring their best selves to the because you want that as a business owner, don't you? As well, you want.
Of course you do. Yeah.
You want the best of people, and if someone's working and they're doing some amazing stuff, it's going to motivate them, because they'll be thinking, "Oh, actually, yeah, I really like my job, or I really like my work because I'm actually I'm making a difference."
Yeah.
And I get to these cool things, and it's making a difference to the business as well.
And I think communication is paramount in this. If you're not communicating with your team on a regular basis, and whether that's down sort of managers to supervisors and then the general workforce.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm rubbish at it. Gareth sat there the other week and referred to us to as dinosaurs. And he's right, because I cannot communicate with this generation coming into the workforce now. It's really difficult for me because I'm a dinosaur.
I think there's a generational differences, aren't there, to a degree. There's also, I think, people of sort of older generations that get it as well. And I think there's people of younger generations that don't get it. So I think there's always a mix. But I think there's this age-old challenge between generations, isn't it? You've got the people that are kind of established and they're working, and you've got new people coming in where the future of the business is. And there's a different language and there's a different understanding. And I think there's always going to be that. I think it's always there. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, there'll always be that. But I think probably what we've seen recently is the speed of things everything's so much faster now.
Oh,
Change
Yeah,
is
yeah.
so much faster.
Yeah.
But hey, you're doing a podcast. I don't think you're a dinosaur.
I'm only doing this because Bethan makes me do it, to be
But
fair.
also, the other thing is, dinosaurs are pretty cool.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but I'd be one of those vegetarian ones, wouldn't I? I'd be nice and gentle. What are we shaking your head for? It's just rude, Bethan. You know that, isn't it? So, moving forward, it's a bit of a strange question for you, given your game. Is there a specific market that you're targeting? So let's try and adapt that a little bit, and you sort of where do you see the business going then, specific to your business now?
Well, I think there's some things in terms of business leadership. There are some things that are universal, aren't they, across all different sectors. So, a lot of the people that we work with work in B2B services, which is a massive market especially in Wales, in the UK. We're a service sector. But we are finding that with more people, like say in construction, manufacturing, are appreciating this kind of like board of directors support structure that we do. So there's some of those elements, some of those things that perhaps businesses that don't traditionally go out and network, we're now seeing that actually that's happening more, but it's a different way of doing it. But also globally, so we've been very much Wales focused over the years, but we found now we've got, for example, an expat market that's suddenly kind of coming in towards us. People that working remotely, they've moved away, but they want to stay connected.
Oh, really?
So that's been quite an interesting part. So I think there's a whole range of different markets, I think, isn't there, which are sometimes are not obvious to see, and then you kind of see a glimpse of them and you think, well, actually, there's something there. So, and I think that, again, part of this idea of working online, working remotely, video meetings, all this stuff has enabled these connections to happen and for some of these markets to be accessed.
I see a lot of value in the sort of, the Teams meetings and the Zooms and all the rest of it, because there's a lot of time between traveling to somewhere. Yeah. And a friend of mine lives in Cornwall and works regularly in London, but does work genuinely all over the world. And he was saying that a client wants to see him face to face and they're in Australia. And I'm like, what? You're actually going? He said, yep, tickets booked, gotta go, because that's what they want.
Yeah, I think, and sometimes you need that. And I think, for me, it's a blended approach. I think video calls can be a great thing to do in between face to face. But, I've hired people that I've never actually met. So I think that, but I've got trust because I see them. And in fact, sometimes you see them more regularly because it's easy to jump onto a Teams call or a Zoom call and get something done than it is to try and put something in the diary, which might add a delay because you've got to look at availability, you've got to look at travel. But I do feel, probably if it's an important client, if it's a big deal, then sometimes the face-to-face is still needed. Yeah. People still want to shake a hand. They still want to kind of spend a bit more time, get all those kind of cues that you can't always get on a Zoom call. I
suppose relatively uniquely, I've got two aspects to it because they're the two companies. Yeah. The traditional sort of construction safety company, if you like, is all face-to-face because I've physically got to go and inspect the sites and talk to the site managers and shake hands and have a breakfast and everything else. Yeah. And then there's the tech company. I know 90% of that contact is done online. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got two different approaches to it, depending on which hat I'm wearing on what day. Yeah. And
of course, and I suppose with a tech company, because I suppose that market is kind of all primed, isn't it? They're interested in doing things technologically, so they're going to be kind of more open. But that's nice. That's probably good for you, isn't it? Because I think there's also this element of, as a humans, we do need in-person interactions.
Yeah.
I think there is something hardwired with us. I mean, I do quite a lot of Zoom calls for various things, but I wouldn't want to be stuck at home or in an office doing Zoom calls all day. It
would drive me mad.
It would drive me mad. I want to be out. So I think it's finding the right balance for you, isn't it? And a lot of that, it's like anything, the wonderful art of self-awareness. And I think, the more we know about ourselves and what we like, the more we can kind of design our work and life to kind of meet that. So that
And again, we come back to designing our own life, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's lots of different ways of doing it. There's lots of ways of running a construction company or a tech company, isn't there? There's not one cookie cutter way. So I think it's finding your way that's going to work for you, and use the tools. But what the great thing is that we've got all these wonderful new tools that a bit like your cars, your cars that you got, the different cars. You got all these wonderful business tools, tech tools, apps.
We did a thing a couple of years back, and it was. I'm not allowed to use the phrase "cars and coffee." Apologies.
Okay.
Because it's trademarked. But we did a client car day up in a cafe in Bronchless.
Oh yeah, Honey Cafe is it?
Yeah, toward Mid Wales. Yeah. So we all, that's where we met and congregated, and people come from all over the place. Yeah. And friends of clients brought their cars, and it was a really good day. Went for a drive afterwards, went up sort of towards through Bilth and then over a bit Ranges and then back to Brecon. It was really good, really enjoyable. Lots of lovely cars there. Yeah. And for me, it was a strange thing because people are going at the end of the day. That was great. Give me your business card. We'll use you now for our safety. Yeah, it got you there because you actually made a connection. It wasn't supposed to be that. It wasn't a networking day. Yeah. Clients rang sort of whilst I was organising and said, "Can I bring a friend? He's got a XYZ." And they're like, "Yeah, of course you can. Yes, no problem. More the merrier. I don't mind buying your mate breakfast. That's okay." But it ended up with about 90 people there, and the breakfast cost me an effing fortune. But I did get some work out of it accidentally. Well, this is it, and sometimes that's what happens, isn't it? It's those other a shared interest or something, or a social thing. Golden halo they talk about, don't they? Finding that one thing that you do have in common with a potential client. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what it's all about, connection, isn't it? That's what we are humans. We want to connect, and sometimes we connect over a car or a coffee. But then we find actually there's other ways as well, like we do a business deal. Yeah. But I love all that area, and up in Bilth and all around there. I mean, it's just stunning, and it's great for driving, isn't it? The roads, Welsh Assembly are trying to kill it. That is the only political thing I will say. I thought there's no politics. Trying to kill it because 20 mile an hour limit's stupid. But I agree to a degree. But up that area where the roads are generally sort of 60 miles an hour, you can pop along quite nicely and sort of in your. You've got the nice environment. You can stop off at places like the Honey Cafe, which is a regular for me. You've got that wonderful the train carriages that have been converted into the cafe in the where's that? Bit further field by, I forget the name of the little town by it now. But there's loads. You've got some great stop-offs around there, and of course, Bilth itself is great. Yeah. I mean, all that area is great. We used to ride motorbikes a little bit, so I discovered that area sort of then with the motorbikes, and I've taken the cars up there since, and it's fabulous. You can go all the way up to sort of Llanberis, and back in a day. Yeah. I've never been. I've been on a motorbike in a field. I've never been on one on a public road, so maybe that's something I should do. It scares me slightly. It frightened me, which is why I don't have a motorbike any longer. I was very much a fair weather motorbiker mind. It started out when I thought, I don't want to be cold on a bike. Yeah. So anything less than about sort of 10, 12, 14 degrees, oh no, I'll leave the bike, I'll take the car. And any warmer than 22, no, it's too hot to ride a motorbike with a helmet on. I'm not doing that. I was too fair weather a motorcyclist. I tell you what I've noticed though recently, quite a lot of these old pubs have been repurposed into like a biker stop-off bar. Yeah, that's become a big. That's again another thing that One on the old A48, coming from Cardiff to Warwickshire way, and they're designed specifically, aren't they, for that? And at least it's kind of like a breathed life into some of these pubs that were kind of probably going to be closed down off the side of the road, and now they've got something. There's something new to do, isn't there? Well, there's always a quirk. There's always a quirk. There's always something you can repurpose, change. Yeah. With the Rams app that I designed, I was telling friends about it initially, and they were like, "I don't get it. What's it for?" Because they weren't in construction, didn't understand it at all. Well, it's compliant paperwork. You got to have it. No, I have a clue what you're talking about. So they all thought I was mad at the time. Yeah, but that's the thing. Sometimes that's the opportunity, isn't it? It's the things that people don't understand. If you can then make it,
if you can spot that, and often you can be in a kind of like that clear blue ocean, that kind of, rather than what's the book that I used to read years ago? I think it's called Blue Ocean, where if you go to a market and you're into a red sea, it's very busy, there's lots of people, then it's quite hard to make an impact. But if you go to where there's clear blue ocean and there's not many other people, you've got a chance to kind of capitalize on a market, and become early adopter, become the first to market, become the dominant force there. So so sometimes it's those things that kind of,
for me, it helped me develop a really simple sort of sales pitch, if you like, for want of a better way of putting it. Because I had to explain to non-industry people what I was doing.
So that you've got to explain it to, what's the phrase? Explain it to a child almost, isn't it? Or the other thing is, does your mum understand it? Can you say, does she get it? And if you kind of like sort of thing like that, how do you kind of take a complex idea and just describe it in one sentence? Yeah,
and that was one of the most difficult parts of that process, was explaining what was in my head to software engineers.
Yes.
For them to get it how I envisaged it in my head. Because I'm not software.
So to be that bridge between two worlds.
Exactly. Yeah. And I had to explain to people that knew nothing about my industry. And then I was going, well, it's one of those things where everything's a traffic light. Red means stop, green means go, but then you've got that amber area in the center, and we're trying to control risks and hazards. And they're going, huh? Because they're software engineers and they don't understand. So it took a long time for me to try and explain what I meant. And we got there, obviously.
Yes.
Because thanks to you, we had a bit more recognition on it. And he's doing really well now.
Good.
So I'm glad. It's something I'm proud of now, to be fair.
Brilliant.
Right. Next question for you. How do you manage change in the company?
Interesting. Yeah. Change. It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because change is always happening. And I think that's the first thing, is to just recognize that you can't stop it. It's all, what's that phrase? You can't step into the same river twice, because either you've changed or the water's flowed on or something like that. So there's always going to be change. So I think definitely understanding about managing it or allowing it in some way is really important. I guess it comes back to a point you made earlier about communication. I think that's the biggest part, isn't it? Is to, especially if you've got a team, or if it's a small team, or even if you see as your clients or your outsourced services as a team, is keeping that engagement going. So you're constantly, you can't, I often say to people, you can't not communicate. You're always communicating.
Yeah.
So if you're not speaking, or if you're not engaging with your team, then that speaks volumes to them. So I think having that dialogue is central to that. And then I suppose how you manage it over and above that is up to you as a business owner or as a team, and the detail around it. But I think as long as the communication's there and it's open and it's two-way, then that I think is the most important thing. But I think, and I think we've had to manage change. So, we've had to pivot several times from, I mentioned this year is looking very different to last year in that program that we offer because of feedback we've had from our clients, which is different to 2 years ago, which is different in 2020 when we kind of lost our 60% of our business overnight. That was in-person events. We had to really, really quickly, and I think it's about that. It's about that kind of being able to move quickly, to move nimbly, to bring people with you, and to have a bit of courage, and to kind of always keep that kernel of what it is that you do as a business. What's that core? What's that value that you offer to the world? Because there's a million different ways to present that offer and to deliver it. And as long as you're sort of, you're at that core, you know what it is that you're about, then that makes it much easier to be able to manage the change of things that throw.
Of course it is. And we've mentioned the sort of the pandemic and COVID and the lockdowns and everything else a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And I think companies that came through that are now more willing to change.
I agree. Yeah, because they've had to.
Yeah.
And they've realised the power
They
of
lived
it.
through that panic.
And they had to be scared of it because actually it was possible, and actually their business came out stronger because of it.
Lots of businesses did, yeah.
And now they can actually build on that strength and keep building on that strength by continuing to have that same adoption of, we can be nimble, we can move around, we can, we don't have to just keep doing the same thing. And it's the businesses that have sort of stuck to their guns and just not listen to what the market's telling them. Those are the businesses that have suffered over the years.
Yeah, the rigidity of it.
Rigidity,
exactly.
They've the horse they backed was the right horse at the time, and I think the race has changed, and they need to do something different. And the world's full of those businesses, aren't they, that didn't change, and didn't manage change,
and really suffered.
Yeah. So I think, but at the heart of it, I think, is that communication and I suppose just being, keeping informed of the world around you and where the trends are going.
Whose job is that?
For my business, it's the business owner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the buck always stops with you, isn't it? And even you, and sometimes your team might take a certain direction, and you've got to allow sometimes your team to do that because they've got to learn as well. But at some point, as a business owner, you've got to kind of think, okay, right, we need to really think about where we are, where we want to go, what's possible, what's going to be, what's the world going to be like in 5 years?
Yeah.
And are we meeting it? Are we staying ahead?
Yeah, and like sitting at the top, you have to look bigger picture, longer term.
Yeah, and sometimes those decisions you make are not always understood by sometimes the team around you, and you have to then kind of articulate it.
But we tell our team to focus.
Yeah,
and yet we've got to think the other way.
Yes, yeah, and of course that whole thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there's what needs to be done now, and in the next few months, or and then there's kind of what we need to do for the future. And sometimes those things look as if they're opposing each other. Yeah. And sometimes
don't get me wrong. I mean, there are political factors over the world. Yeah. If your business is worldwide, then you have to take that into consideration.
Well, look now. I mean, as people are exporting, importing, they've got to really be thinking fast and planning, haven't they? Because the world is changing.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday, what happened in Davos? And the turnaround on Greenland and everything else. And it caused chaos and then recovery in the stock market, specifically in the States. But they say that that's what sort of changed things around. Was stock market dipped, the alarm bell went off, and it was okay.
The markets have responded.
Yeah.
And of course, the smart people would have kind of semi-predicted some of those things. And
And the stat that I found interesting, and that's why it stuck in my head, is 75% of American households are in the stock market now.
That is interesting. So and again, the American market, talk about different markets, and we've been asked about launching in America as one of them, which has a whole range of things to think about. But it is culturally and business very, very different.
Yeah.
To the UK.
Yeah. It is very different.
We both speak the same language, but business is done differently. There are some things, obviously, that's the same. But and I think that's the thing about moving into different markets, is understanding that, isn't it? Understanding, well, actually, if I was to launch in another country, how do I need to change that element of it? Because what might work here might not work there.
Yeah, I don't know much about it because I've not been a lot. And it's not somewhere that I'm really interested in going either. Don't see the businesses working there and everything else.
Yeah.
So it's not something I focused on. But those that do tell me it's really different.
Yeah.
In the way they operate and do business there, it's entirely different.
There's different culture for sure. And I think, but I think is, we've done most of our stuff in Wales, apart from like a bit of London, Bristol, and the Midlands. And I think I love doing business in Wales. I must say, I do love the culture here. And even though we are a small country, we are a smart. There's a lot of talented business minds in Wales as well. And sometimes
you're not as daft as people make out, to be fair.
I'm pretty daft sometimes, mind. But I've grown up in Wales. I've lived in Wales most of my life. I've dabbled. I've lived in America a bit. I've lived in England a bit, and I lived down in Spain for quite a bit as well. But I've always come back to Wales. I've always had a base in Wales, and but I think that there are things that economically, I think there are things that I think we need to be a bit bolder with. But I think, but in terms of the people, that's what I love about Wales is working with the people I work with. I think we've got a really nice culture here.
I think so. Yeah,
of looking after each other.
Yeah,
of I think
it is quite because we come from small communities. I think that's where it comes from. It stems from.
Yes,
so you end up being more supportive.
Yes, I think you're probably right. Actually, there's definitely that feel here, isn't there, of community?
Yeah, because you were years ago. It was one of two things, wasn't it? It was agriculture or bloody coal mining.
Yeah.
So you were in those small communities, and everyone knew everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were tiny communities. Granted, with the valleys now, like it is, everything sort of joined up and bled into one long town, if you like. Yeah. But the village names are still there.
Yeah.
That's how you were brought up, to help and support each other.
Yeah.
Because the dad working down the mine, he had a bump and he wasn't going to get paid sick pay. So everyone chipped in to support that family, and they looked after the kids and fed them and everything else. And I think that sense of community is ingrained in us to a certain extent, So helping then your fellow business owner, there's no problem there. There's dozens of businesses here, and I speak to them all the time.
Yeah.
And they come in and sit down and say, right, I've got this issue. And I do the same in their office, and we talk about it,
Yeah.
And there's no competitive nature or anything like that. It is. I think. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. I agree. There's more of a supportive feel. I've not done a lot of work across the bridge and everything else, but now you mention it, I do recognise it.
Yeah,
there is a supporting feel to sort of Welsh businesses.
Yes,
people say about sort of businesses being quite parochial, and then I point them to businesses like Go Compare.
Yes.
It's not parochial at all.
Absolutely.
If anything, they hid the fact that they were made in Wales.
And you got a lot of like a Stallion Bank, isn't it? It's the Welsh connection there, which is great. So I think there's a lot of work in sort of projecting that. And I think there's probably more we can do in Wales as governmentally or to help back some of those Welsh startups that have got those ambitions to go big.
Once again, straying slightly towards politics, there's a big section of the Welsh Assembly that is there for business support.
Yes.
I don't think they shout about it enough.
Well, yes, it's the not knowing,
they don't celebrate their successes enough.
It's the aspirational thing. I think it's that whole thing, isn't it? And young people coming up and just seeing business as an opportunity for them to do what they want to do in life. And some of that, is shouting up, having those role models there, and just saying, well, actually, we've done this amazing thing, and this global sensation, and we started off, around the kitchen table here, and I think those stories are really powerful. And we probably don't tell them enough.
No,
I think that's probably, and I think that storytelling is something that's really important.
Is that again? Do we think it's a Welsh thing where we don't shout about our successes? We're
possibly, I think probably we don't. We
unless it's 1970s rugby, we don't shut up about that.
Absolutely, we get everywhere the Welsh, don't we? We're all over the world, but we're probably quite quiet about that, and about what we've done. I don't quite know where that comes from. But
is that us as a population being guarded because we don't want people having a go at us?
Possibly. I don't know. There's probably, we should put this out, there's probably someone who's written a PhD on this somewhere.
I haven't read it.
It's probably on the shelf. It's probably on a shelf somewhere. Only 2 people have read it. But I don't know. But I think we probably don't shout out enough. And we probably could do more. And I think things like this podcast, is a great forum for that, to do that.
Thank you for that. It's a nice thing for you to say. Yeah, and like I said, before we started recording, it's one of those things where I feel we don't shout about it enough. We don't tell people that, for me, construction is a great industry. You're not always standing around in the mud and the rain like I was this morning. There are days where it's just bloody fabulous.
Yeah.
You know, and nearly everyone that came to this sort of car client coffee thing day, which we did a couple of years ago, worked in or around construction and associated sort of service industries and everything else. And evidently they'd done a really good job at it because they had a bloody nice car. I'll give them that.
Yes.
And most of my clients, cars I hadn't seen before, because, you know, they're not bringing that one to work. They're driving the van to work. So people do all right at the industry.
Yeah.
But we don't tell people who are school leavers and college leavers that you can do well in this industry. And
I think we have a very sort of like, probably growing up and through school, you have very much quite a narrow view of what's possible, isn't it? Either, you know, you become a doctor or a nurse or a solicitor or a post person or we have this view of the world, don't we, which is told to us through storytelling or whatever it is, or what our parents know, or and there's a whole other world out there of other opportunities that are just
influencers. Who knew that was going to be a job?
Yes, absolutely. I've never tried being an influencer, but
no, Christ,
it seems hard work.
If I'm influencing you, you've got problems.
I thought an easier aim for me is to be a binfluencer, you know, the person that puts the bins out first.
I saw that, yeah.
That seems much more realistic for me.
Who knows what's going on with the bins collection? Yeah.
But you're right. Who would have thought that you would, there's people on YouTube that just eat sweets in front of the camera and make a fortune. And who would have thought that would be a thing?
Oh, I don't know. There are some strange quirks out there.
There are, yeah, and that's it. And some things are quirks, but I think it's doing. I mean, for me personally, I like to do something that I feel is adding something to the world. You know, adding some sort of value to the world, so I feel like a sense of fulfillment. That's quite important.
Jesus Christ, that's aspirational. Bloody hell.
But then aside from that, if I can afford a few beers and travel, that's fine too.
And there you go.
Yeah, or a nice car. if it's just that, I must say that I'm pretty much carless now. I did used to drive a lot of nice cars, but I kind of quite like being car free. Last year, how many miles do you think I drove?
Pass.
500 miles.
What? In a year?
In a year, I know. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? So
I do that a week.
But I do like a nice car. I must say, there's something about sitting and driving a nice car.
It's literally 2 miles from my house to the office, and yet I drive about 500 miles a week. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. It's a different world, crazy world. But yeah, but that's, I think, but that's the wonderful thing about business, isn't it? Is that it's just, you can more or less create something that you want. So as long as it makes business sense and go for it, it's amazing what happens.
Absolutely. So the last killer question, how do you manage conflict in a business?
Oh, conflict. Yeah, well, it's always there, conflict, isn't it? I think, do you mean conflict between people?
Specifically?
Specifically. Yeah. It is difficult. I think it's that whole thing. When you get conflict, you often sort of think, step back and think, well, okay, where's it coming from? What is that conflict about? And often I always think it's about different people having different beliefs about something, isn't it? So they, and often both those people are working towards the same thing or something similar, but they have different beliefs to how you get there or what's right or wrong about it. So often sort of just chunking up a little bit and getting people again back onto, why are we doing what we're doing, and talking about it.
Are you an official, sit down in the office kind of guy, or are you more, let's go to the pub and have a chat?
I think often the pub and the chat thing can be a good approach.
Yeah, it can be.
Or doing something that takes, or going for a walk, or doing some sort of team building activity. I hate the word team building activity, but sometimes like just going bowling or just say going for a meal can really, really help. It may be that also don't want to avoid it if you're thinking that's just putting a sticker plaster on it. But that kind of warms things up, and it may be then just talking through an office or mediating. It can be down to that. But often,
if we get as far as mediation for me, see, we've already gone too far. That's me.
Yeah, I've never had to go down that route.
Never do it in the office, however. from my own perspective.
Do it kind of like
even if it's walking around the building.
Yeah.
Take it away from the actual office. So we're not disturbing everyone else's work.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I suppose I've been quite fortunate. I've not had to deal with that. I mean,
Do you get a bit in the networking clubs though?
You can do.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can do. Because, especially in Wales, it's a small tight-knit community. If someone, we've had issue where two people have come to an event and they've known each other from a previous life and something, a business deal's gone bad.
Oh, no, not that knobhead.
Or something like that, yeah.
Thing.
And then you're thinking, how do you manage that? And sometimes you have to speak to them individually and try and think of a way through it. It's a very rare thing.
Yeah.
It does happen. But yeah, and you will get people that say, I can't be in the same room as someone else. Or they're just...
And a lot of it, I think, can come through competition, can't it? People in the same game.
It can be, yeah. I think, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think never fear competition because I think there's always enough at the pie, and there's loads, there's billions of people in the world, and there's always stuff to do. So I think sometimes, and even the fact, competitors sometimes can help each other out. This is quite interesting, isn't it? Because often when you drill down, they're not actually competing. They might do the same thing, they do it for a different market. Or actually, you see what your competitors do, you're thinking, oh, God, that's a good idea, and they see the same in you. So I think actually you can help each other become stronger businesses. And I think that's, we do like an exhibition every year, and we always try and look for a balance of businesses inside this business exhibition because, no one wants to go to an exhibition and see that, it's 50% of the exhibitors doing the same thing. It's not good for anyone. But we recognize you're going to often have 2 or 3 people in an exhibition that do a similar thing.
Yeah.
But actually, it's quite useful for them to see each other. And, and quite often you actually see them talking and having a coffee, and and they get talking and they're starting to share kind of like, having a bit of an industry chat.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And then the fears they had about going into a room and having competitors there actually melted away, and they come away with actually ideas. And I say there's plenty of business out there for everyone. That's not the problem. And actually building a stronger business and seeing your competitors do something amazing is actually a good thing, because it kind of think, well, actually, I need to pull my socks up.
Yeah.
And
if I improve my game, I can get some of them.
It's a bit like sport, isn't it? You're playing tennis, you're kind of like, you're honing your skills a bit, and a bit of healthy competition is a good thing.
For me, the classic is Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Yes. Yeah. Are you Coke or Pepsi?
I'm neither, because I have no affiliation.
Okay.
As long as it hasn't got sugar in it, then I'm okay. I'll drink either. I don't care. But I read an article the other day, and it was one of those things of somebody went to work for Pepsi, and then sort of they got really into quite a long way into the business, and then through fair means or foul, they got fired. Okay, right. Yeah. They did something wrong and they got fired. And then they approached Coca-Cola, or maybe it was the other way around, to sell them business secrets. And they rung the other side and said, this woman's trying to sell us your business secrets.
Interesting.
And she ended up being done for industrial espionage.
Oh my goodness.
Because they both recognize the value in each other.
Yeah, and that person, absolutely. And I think this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, I think Coca-Cola's great. The branding's great. I'm a Pepsi person. I'd always go for Pepsi over Coke. I prefer the taste of Pepsi. But, I'm not going to say no to Coke either. But it is interesting that they see that. Well, they're in the same market, aren't they?
Absolutely,
it benefits both of them for them both to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, interesting.
I thought that was that you'd like to think they were such big competitors and they wouldn't even sort of be in the same room, but no, apparently not. They protect each other's secrets if they come across them, that kind of thing. Yeah, I thought that was great.
And the same, with sort of networking organisations, lots of them around, and I quite often meet with other leaders of networking organisations. In fact, one of them phoned me the other day, and we were thinking about doing a networking event for networking organisers, so we could share ideas. So, it's not about the competition. It's about kind of, I suppose, someone that's in the same field as you at that same sort of level, it's actually very useful to speak to them.
Yeah. I know other people that have got their own sort of safety entities and companies and things like that. Yeah. And I don't consider us competitors. Yeah. They're just other people that work in the same field.
Yeah.
And that might be me being, sort of Mr. Laid Back and easygoing.
But also, I mean, it's an unrealistic thing. As a small to medium-sized business, you're not going to be able to have all the clients in the world, are you? I mean, this is impossible.
No, Christ, no.
So, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. So, I mean, so actually having that competition is a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Neil, it's been a fascinating conversation. I really appreciate you coming up. Thank you for coming in.
Well, thank you. And I really enjoyed this podcast. I'm just looking now. I'm angling now for free breakfast in the Honey Cafe.
Let the weather break.
When the weather breaks, we'll go there and we'll set up.
You'll need a bloody car.
I'll buy you breakfast. So what, babe? I'm not buying 90 breakfasts, or maybe. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. You're very welcome. And there we go. There's another episode of Ordinary Working Joe.